How's it going? I'm Tina Edwards, and you're listening to My Year in Sound, a Sound of Life podcast powered by 𝘮𝑗. In each episode, we ask our special guests to put their year in music under the spotlight. We explore everything from iconic album releases through to unforgettable live shows, all kinds of music memories entwined with personal experiences and anecdotes. What's more, they'll bring in 3 personal items to help illustrate their special year in music. Tash LC is a DJ, radio host and label head. With regular shows on NTS Radio, along with past residencies on BBC One Extra, Kiss FM and Worldwide FM, Tash LC is well versed in delivering music recommendations. She champions music across high life, Afro jazz, 𝘮𝑑𝑒̀r𝑚 and esoteric club sounds. With her club night and record label called Club Yeke, she focuses on spotlighting and releasing underground local music from across the global south, and has so far worked with artists from Jamaica, Ghana, Portugal, Brazil, South Africa and the USA. And if you follow her on socials, you know she has an excellent sense of humour as well. Tash LC, welcome to My Year in Sound. Soon we're going to be diving into your chosen year, but let's get to know you a little bit better first. Can you talk us through your earliest memories of sound?
Oh, my earliest memories of sound, I would say, so I grew up in a very music-loving family. So my mum, dad and sister, all big music lovers, especially like a lot of house music on at home. I think my early memories of sound were radio. I remember Choice FM being on a lot at home. I think Kiss sometimes, but a lot of Choice, which used to be a black radio station. I think pretty much all black presenters, black music, black British sounds and culture, and it doesn't exist anymore. But it was a really, really instrumental kind of part of radio history in the UK. And so that was on loads at home, and lots of house music on the radio, house mixtapes on Saturday mornings. And I think those Saturday morning house sessions that my mum would have on while she was cleaning the house were some of my earliest memories. I was probably about 6, 7, and she'd be dancing around the house and I'd be getting ready to go off to ballet school. And then when I got back, there'd still be house playing or just the radio on or something. There was always some sort of house music on at home.
Nice. I love that. I can really picture you sort of finding your ballet pumps, music blaring in the house. Yeah. It sounds like quite a fun, busy household, maybe?
Yeah, it was, because my mum and my dad and my sister's a bit older. She's 11 years older, so she kind of be doing her own thing, but it was pretty busy. Yeah, my mum's always been a busybody, so she's always doing something.
Nice. And we're at the end of we're coming towards the end of festival season.
Yeah.
At the time of recording this, and you've had yet again another very busy, fun, full-on schedule of festivals. How's the summer been for you?
It's been good. It's been really busy. Maybe the busiest one yet. I think it's been non-stop. And I've enjoyed it. I've had a lot of different experiences. I've met a lot of great people, been to Italy a lot randomly, hadn't been in Italy for years, maybe not years, but ages. And then recently just been booked there loads in the last few months, which has been really nice to go back to a region a lot, or a country a lot. And festivals obviously as well have been good. I had Glastonbury was mental, played to it was 7,000 people or something ridiculous with 𝘵𝘮𝘭𝘮, and that was mad. And Boomtown was really fun. I would have played at We Out Here by the time this comes out, which I'm really excited about as well. Film maneuvers too. Yeah, it's been good. It's been a good balance of I've been grateful to have been a part of a lot of the UK festivals as well. I feel like I get a lot of love here, which is nice, and a lot of love in London. So yeah, it's been colourful.
Great.
Really,
How was this year? How was it compared to sort of previous years? I feel like watching your journey with all the different sort of hats that you wear. I'm thinking about your DJ hat, but I'm also thinking about with Club Yeke, your night and your label, your voiceover, everything that you do right now. It feels like there's a really nice momentum and a big build to more people discovering what it is that you do and what you stand for. Have you noticed an arrival or a moment this year where it feels like, this has been climbing towards this moment or anything like that? Or does it kind of feel like the journey is just continuing? You think about the next thing, about 2025?
It feels like the journey's kind of always sort of evolving and continuing, and people are like kind of getting it a bit more like each time. I think for me, the way that I feel like I never really have a point where I'm like, I've landed now. I think my journey feels very unique and quite slow, and that's something that I've sort of battled with, and I've kind of learning to accept that slowness isn't a negative. It's more that like I feel I connect with people, individuals, more than I connect with like a room, or like connect with like thousands of people and do sellout shows. For me, it's more the people that get it. And I think because the way that I play, the sounds that I play, the kind of story that I'm trying to tell is very specific, and the community I'm trying to build, and it's a lot more of like a slow game. And so for me, it's more just those individual moments where I look at, like, for example, I played at Boomtown the other day, and, you know, Boomtown's so much fun. People are a lot of the time fully out of it, don't even have a clue what's going on, and that's really fun, and that's fine. But there was like a row of people at the front, and there was a few people that I was looking at, and I was like, oh, you get it. And then like, you know, often when you play at a festival, the set can kind of be thrown away. It's like whatever time of the morning, people are like, whatever, it all just rolls into one. But when there's those moments of people, like, you know, that they like recognize the track, or they like connect with that rhythm, and that's really cool. So for me, it's just that happening more and more. And like, I had an amazing gig in Catania, which again wasn't too many people by the time it got to kind of peak time. A lot of people had left. There was probably like 30 odd people there, but they were all locked in. And then I came out into the crowd, danced with everyone. There was like a reggae track at the end, and we all just had this moment, and it was like, oh, it was so nice. So it's more those moments that are significant to me, that feel like really part of the journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that you've highlighted those moments, because I feel like that it shows how much your heart is in it. It's about presenting the sounds that you care about. And if people come back to you and say, yeah, this connects with me, like, you've won. Like,
exactly.
that's
I'm
it.
sure you feel the same, right?
Yeah, that's it. I think, you know, what I really hear in what you're saying is that kind of self-belief and trust, that if you do what you love doing, people will find that, like the right people will come to you. So yeah, your sets are really eclectic. All kinds of global south club culture sounds get represented. Like, how do you source your music? How do you find it, and what is it that you're looking for?
How do I source my music? I dig in record stores when I can. Normally when I travel, not so much in London, but sometimes. Normally when I travel, that's a big part of it. But that's more, at the moment, I don't really play vinyl out, so that's more like a personal thing, but that's changing. I'm planning this project, this tour, where I'm gonna just be playing vinyl, which I'm really excited about.
Cool. Is that scary, or is it exciting?
I'm gonna actually talk to you about it after this and get some tips, because I'm just like, I'm gonna do it all wrong and just like break everything.
There is such a fear with vinyl, and I so get it, because obviously with digital, for anyone that's not familiar with DJing, you know, it seems a little bit more straightforward, but sometimes you get like, corrupt files or whatever, and it's like, okay, but at least I sort of work around it most of the time. But yeah, with vinyls, it can be quite vulnerable, because if there's something up, everyone will hear it, and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And you're like even getting so familiar with like needles. And for me, it's like that whole journey now. I feel like I'm now at this point starting again, in terms of like my journey now, playing more records out and getting familiar with a whole new type of equipment, and I've kind of starting from scratch again, and like understanding kit, understanding needles, understanding sound, because I feel like my ears are not that attuned to like sound quality and like looking for nuance and stuff, and that kind of makes me feel a bit self-conscious, but also excited to learn, because there's just so much in music still that I don't get, and like notes and musicality and stuff. So that I'm excited about. But yeah, I dig a lot Discogs, and then a lot of Bandcamp. I make a lot of playlists on Spotify, and then buy stuff on iTunes from there. Then a lot of YouTube playlists for like archive old stuff, and then I'll go and try and find it on Discogs. Sometimes Apple Music too. But mainly those are my main sources, and then day to day it's like making Spotify playlists and whatnot, and Bandcamp is like a huge one. But yeah, all over the place. I'm a very scatty person, so the way that I source music is also the same. I appreciate that. I mirror that completely. So in terms of what you look for, is it a feeling? Is it sort of seeing something represented that means something to you? Like, what is it that makes you go, yes, I'm going to include this track in my set?
It's a feeling, and it's percussion and rhythm. Like, percussion is definitely the base of most of the music that I do buy, but it's also a feeling. Like, if something is really like sparse and weird, and doesn't necessarily have it, but for me it's like it still belongs in that same family of, say, like a 𝘮𝘪𝘠 track or a 𝘮𝘠 track, or something that's like bassy, but then there's still that weight that still feels like it. I can tell it comes from like somewhere, and it still feels like it's ethnic, and like I can tell that there's like a history to it, and there's some sort of source. I always say the source, like as in like the 𝘱𝘬𝘢𝘬 type source. Like there's like a vibrancy there, and it ties into, percussion's the main thing. But when it's not that, it's a feeling of like lightness, or like when I hear like a reggae track or a dub track that I really love, it's that, like, for me, a lot of the music I love comes from like a place of like sunshine and like warmth. Even when it's dark, it's danceable. It's such a hard thing to describe.
I hear you.
You kind of just have to hear the sets, and then it makes sense.
Like it communicates itself through the music as opposed to being able to put words to it. So easily.
Yeah, especially when you play so many things, but then the story, the kind of interlinking qualities are there, but they're kind of hard to explain.
I hear you. So you do NTS Radio as well. Really nice residency on there, and obviously we talked about in the introduction some of the other stations that you've had residencies on. When it comes to radio and DJing, how do they kind of stimulate you or fulfill you creatively? Like, do they kind of entertain different sides of your personality, do you think?
I think so, yeah. When I'm on radio, I don't really tend to mix. I just tend to play tracks and talk and introduce them, have chats, because NTS is very interactive. There's a chat room, so you can have back and forth chats with people in there, and it's just very funny and silly and engaging, and it makes radio just feel more fun if you're comfortable interacting with it. So I do that, and because I have that at my disposal, I'm not so bothered about being like a mixing DJ on the radio. Sometimes I will, but it's rare, and I actually get really anxious about it because I don't like DJing when I can't see the audience in front of me. It actually makes me mess up a lot. So I try to not focus on DJing on the radio, and just more like track selection, giving context, stories to the music, presenting like deep dives and specials and a focus point, which I find really fun. And then I get to do research and like dig a bit deeper, and then contextualize and stuff. And then when I'm DJing, it's kind of the same thing but without the words, I suppose. And I feel like I get to be a lot more technical, and like I feel a lot more like challenged in a different way. And I've got to like think very quickly, like I do on the radio when I'm improvising and I speak. But DJing, my brain's constantly working, and especially because the way that I DJ, I rarely will play the same set twice or even like close. It's always different, and a lot of the time I'm just trying out new tracks every set, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and there's always new stuff being thrown in there, trying different combinations. So it's always like cogs turning all the time. You know what I mean? It exercises different parts of the brain for sure.
I find that like when I'm DJing out, I like the immediacy of seeing their reaction to the music. Yeah. Whereas with radio, I know, like in your words, you said something like you slip up sometimes with radio stuff if you're mixing or whatever, and you can't see people. And I totally understand that.
Do you know what I mean?
It's like you don't have the conversation going. It's like a one-sided conversation, or it can feel like a one-sided conversation sometimes. But of course, with the chat room and all sorts, you are connected. But I do think psychologically there can be that different sort of dynamic there sometimes. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's a strange phenomenon. So let's talk about Club Yeke, the label, the club night. What does it mean to you? Why did it come into being?
So I wanted to start Yeke because it was like my old agent actually encouraged me to do a label because of the music I was playing. That I play is pretty unique, and the stuff coming from the global south it's just really innovative and interesting, and isn't like, it's becoming more and more well documented, but like then wasn't so much. And so I kind of put it off. It seemed like such a just like long-winded, scary, difficult thing. I was like, I don't want to do that. And then I gradually started the club night because I knew that I wanted to see all the DJs I love in one space or in lineups rather than being scattered across all these different nights and seeing them. So that's the reason I wanted to do it, and I wanted to just create a sound, I guess. And I wanted to show people how these genres interlink with each other and like make sense together and the relationships between them. And then for people, that's why I love programming and curating, is because I want to tell that story I'm telling in my DJ sets through the lineups and say, you know, you can have like, I had like Manara and 𝘰𝘀𝘀 at the beginning and 𝘭𝘭𝘺 and that, you know, getting kind of like heavier UK bassy edits, but then also like dancehall, and then 𝘭𝘭𝘺 was coming in with like Afro-diasporic, like undergroundy, weirder stuff. And then, but then it's, for me, it was like, okay, how can I program this in a scheduling way that makes sense and where there's gonna be this like through line thing? And then that's why I wanted to do it. So that's why I started the night, and then the label came a bit later, and it was the same thing. It was that I just felt I still had so much to say with beyond just DJing, and I wanted people to just be put onto these really incredible producers that were doing really cool stuff, and I think is the most exciting music in the world, and I just wanted people to hear it, and I wanted to create a home for it, and that was essentially the driving force. That is the driving force behind it.
You've built like a really committed like community, I think, that are behind it, which is lovely to see. Like there's a lot of engagement and activity from what I see on socials, and a lot of like excitement for when, you know, you announce your gigs. Like there's a lot of people that I think feel a part of it, which must be really lovely.
I hope so, yeah. Something I'm always trying to build on. Yeah.
And I'm fully aware we've talked a lot about the things that you do and have done the last few years, but before we talk about your chosen year, I'd love to just kind of take it right back and like find out what gave you the bug, I suppose. Like we've talked about, you know, what you had in the family home and things, but how do you think your life ended up revolving around music? How did it become such a huge thing that's your everyday now?
It was kind of unexpected, to be honest. I thought I was going to be a TV presenter. That was the plan at 18. And then I still really want to do more of that. And I love presenting, but that was my focus, even though I love music. And then the radio thing came through discovering student radio at uni, doing that every week, realising I really loved it, loved broadcasting and talking and like getting playlists together and planning. Even though I'm really unorganised, I like really got stuck into that, and then it just kind of blossomed from there. It was really unexpected, and it kind of just it fit, and I really liked it, and I just continued it, and that's kind of got me to where I am now. But the DJing, I guess the radio thing was kind of foremost, and then the DJing thing came from that. But that was even less expected than the radio thing. I thought, okay, radio presenter makes sense. I would end up on BBC, do like a show on BBC One, on Radio 1 or something, and just be using my voice predominantly. And then as I got more into the sort of specialist music, the Global South stuff, the Afro stuff, I was like, oh, wow, now I'm obsessed with this and I need to combine these two things and get this music heard on the radio. So that was the whole... That was the beginning point. So it was unintentional. It was unintentional.
It's like you found like this big drive to like share this particular kind of music, and you're like, okay, well, I've got to get it out there.
Exactly.
This is how I'm going to do it. Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Let's talk about your chosen year. What year have you gone for?
So we're going to go with 2010.
2010. Who was Tash LC in 2010?
So I was in I would have been in year 9 at school. Year 10, year 11 is 2012. Yeah, so I would have been in about year 9. I thought I was really stylish. I was like becoming a little indie kid, and really like looked up to these year 11s in my school who I thought were just so sick because I was like the era of like Topshop. And then I was like, oh my god, they're so cool. And then Tash in 2010 would like get her hair from that side and scrape it right over there and then clip it up with like two what on the slide?
Are we talking like an emo fringe?
It was
like
kind of
pins?
emo, but more like indie. But it was like kind of emo, but not quite emo. But it was like the same sort of emo era. But I was never really emo. My friend Shannon was, but I was more like indie. I was like I discovered NME, and then NME magazine. Bought that like religiously. And I had my two friends Shanae and Daniela. They were two of my best mates in school, and we would just like every Wednesday when NME came out, would sit down and like read it together and go through it and get really excited about what's coming out, and had our iPods and like all of the like latest bangers on there from all the bands that we loved, and we'd share headphones and listen to tracks like over and over again on the bus on the way home. And I just actually just really, really loved music. I know it's just as silly as I am now, but loved music, but yeah, predominantly like basically all indie music at that point.
Nice. We've got that in common.
Yeah.
It's funny because I remember, I think I saw on your Instagram or something saying, I think it was just in your stories being like, if I put on an indie club night, would anyone come?
Oh, yeah. And I kept meaning to do that. I'm going to do it. There's so many people replied. So many people replied. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to do it at some point. But I think I was like, who's going to... I think I was overthinking it. I was like, is there going to be enough DJs? But I feel like it's just like one, like jump on and just do like a house party, innit?
Yeah.
Maybe like 2 for 2 or something.
Oh, totally. And it would just be so fun to constantly have those like, oh, yeah, moments when
and
you just hear a track for the first time in 15 years. Yeah.
I know. I am gonna do it. I actually forgot that I said that.
Sick.
So many people were like me, and that's what I mean about that specific era. Is like so many people, like especially like British people, can like relate, and they're like, oh my God, yeah, and it takes you right back, and it's just like such a shared experience. I love those moments of just like complete shared experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like you all have that something in common that you didn't know each other at the time, but you knew that you were all listening to that one thing.
Yeah, no matter what you like now, it's kind of like we all have that still. And we like we could listen to all those tracks now and still just like get just as excited.
Nice. Do you think you got your friends into that music, or did they get you into it, or was it just completely organic and impossible to know?
I would say like Daniela did. She got me into a lot of that music because she introduced me to Enemy Mag, and then we got Shanae into it, and then I introduced it to like a few other friends who would like some tracks, but it was mainly Daniela was my big. I've got like certain. It's funny. I've got 2 friends in my life that have been so pivotal for me. Like Daniela in getting me into indie stuff, and then years later Riley, my other friend, who's now one of my best friends, who got me into like so much of the kind of Afro music, electronic music that I love now, and has been like basically the reason I DJ. And they're 2 friends that don't even like work in music, but like have just been so important to me, and like I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't have met them. Do you know what I mean? So I love that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that you can sort of put down the influence or inspiration for your career now to 2 friends, like school friends. Like from way
literally.
back.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I remember my school friends used to take the mickey out of me for the music that I liked.
Really?
And I was like, now I'm in music. It's
No,
okay.
yeah,
like,
no,
I did
you're
have a
doing
good
the
taste in
thing.
music. I knew that I had a good taste in music. But
And
everyone
also,
was like,
what even is good taste anyway?
Exactly. It's so subjective.
So
That's what I'd
subjective.
always say. So let's talk about the first item that you've brought in. You've brought a few things in.
I've
What's
brought
the first one?
loads. Basically, let's start off with a picture.
Okay, great.
that okay?
Yeah, please.
So I thought I'd go with a picture because it's here on my phone. I'm going to go with this picture, which is...
So I'll have a
it's
peek
gone.
first, and then
we can talk...
you
okay.
hold
it's
it up to the
disappeared.
camera.
Okay, cool.
And then the people watching it can have a little sneak
Hopefully
peek
you
as
guys
well.
can see it. I've lost it. So I'm going to go with this one, which is like... Oh, that's me at like Relentless Garage. When was this? 2010. I've seen Vampire Weekend for the first time.
Okay, unrecognisable.
Really? Do you think?
Yes. Okay, so this is you via Facebook. Was it about to see Vampire Weekend?
In 2010,
Can we see that on the screen? I don't know. But I'm going to pass it over to producer Laura to hold it up to the screen.
We'll give it to producer Laura.
Thanks,
Hopefully
producer
you can see
Laura.
it. Thanks.
Hey.
Can you see it?
So how old? So this is 2010, so you're in year 9.
So I would have been 14,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
14. And I
Sounds
remember
about right.
having like a massive strop because me and Shanae had like made these huge, we'd made, that's Shanae. We'd made like these
Okay,
like
you guys look
massive,
very cute together.
The sweaty office in the background. We'd made this like massive poster in our break at school, and then my mum said we thought that my mum was going to let me leave school early so we could get in the queue early, and she wouldn't. I remember like crying, and I was like, "You said we could leave early," and then we weren't allowed to leave school early, and I remember getting so upset about it. And we made like this big. It was like, just like a big post that we'd painted. And then we ended up getting there like so early, and we were like the first people in there anyway, and it was fine. But it was, I think that was my first... I'm trying to think if I'd been to any other indie gigs before that. Not really, but that was the first time seeing them, and it was like really intimate. You know Relentless Garage in Islington? It's
Rings a
opposite
bell.
the
I
station.
haven't been there.
It's
Okay.
opposite the station anyway. I think it's now called The Garage or something. But anyway, it was just like really intimate, and we were like so close to them. We were like hyperventilating, and it was so good. It was such a good gig.
I feel like when you were really young, you'd always go to gigs really early because you're like terrified because the ticket time will say like 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I must be there at 6:59 in case they come on like straight away. I remember like turning up so early to a 𝘵𝘦𝘢𝘭𝘵 gig that he was sound checking. And then like came out and he's like, you here for the gig? And I'm like, yeah, like shaking my head like, oh my God, I fancy you so much. And then just like being so desperately early. Yeah. Like, it's mad. But
yeah, that was the classic. I'll be there like 3 hours and then you're just like sitting, you got to be like right at the front. my niece the other day, she loves K-pop, like obsessed, and she went to see this group called... I forgot what they're called, Stray Kids. She went to see them in Hyde Park and they got there at 2 a.m.
2 a.m?
Yeah.
For the following...
It started the next afternoon at like 4 p.m. or something. There was already people in front of them in the queue. They didn't even get right to the front.
Oh my God.
I know. I was like, wow.
I could not.
I know. They weren't messing about. They literally were not messing about. I was like, I respect it. And I also love that, like... it's so cool to have, like, especially kids now with so much other things going on their phones and stuff, to be like that dedicated to something. I'm like, yep, go on, love it.
Oh my days, how funny. What were you like wearing in 2010? Like, what was your style?
It was like,
because I feel like back in 2010, you really dressed for what you listened to. Like, you could tell the indie kids or the emo kids or. Wow, God, I so would not have realised that was you. Like, so okay, you're wearing like white, bold sunglasses.
That's like the
checkered
Primark
shirt.
classic.
Nice, like bright pink vibes. Okay, I'm feeling it. I love that.
That's so fun. Yeah, that was the picture I was going to show. Was just like, what is this? This is just such a funny picture to me. When we went to like France on like a school trip, and I thought it was so cool.
So Tash is flicking through her Facebook posts from 2010, and there you are, styling it out on a rock, holding your chin. What a cool look! I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but you're definitely styling it out.
It was those shades. We used to buy them from Primark, and we thought it was so sick. And the wristbands and the skinny jeans.
Oh man! And then there was a time around then where like it was skinny jeans, but it got so baggy that every time it rained, you would just be soaking up so much water. Did you have that jean moment?
No, I didn't have that jean moment.
Okay, that happened to me. Guilty.
I can imagine though.
Yeah, I think that was more like the Scene Kid jeans that got there.
Yeah, I didn't quite get. I wasn't quite Scene. I feel like Scene was like kind of a similar time, but I went more like indie, and then it was kind of like I liked some emo. I really loved My Chemical Romance. That was like probably the hardest I went, and then there would be certain tracks like I would kind of like some Bring Me the Horizon tracks and stuff, but never really that. I kind of preferred the softer guitar stuff. But there would be like the odd tune that was like a banger.
Nice. So I'm getting a nice picture of you in 2010. This is nice. Let's move on to your second item that you brought along.
Okay. Okay, cool. Next one, I'll go with this album, which is Late of the Pier, Fantasy Black Channel. Do you know Late of the Pier?
Late of the Pier. You're giving me lots of brain ticklers, like things that sound like deeply I sort of remember, but not quite. No, introduce me to them.
They're like this indie band from... I want to say they're from Brighton, but I could be wrong. But this was like a really cool album to me because it was that like indie electro sort of thing. And there were a few... like this, and there's like a few other like records that were like kind of the beginnings of my entry point into electronic music, but still indie. And this was like just a different sound to anything else that I really had, and it was like super like synthy, and like probably listening to it now it's like so corny, but I just thought it was sick. And there's a track called Heartbeat which I played like on repeat, me and Daniela would, and also like The Bears Are Coming, which is like really weird, and the video is really like glitchy and stuff and like trippy, and Bathroom Gurgle as well. Us all coming back now, and I thought the cover was really cool. But yeah, I think I loved this because this made us feel even cooler, because it was like, oh, this is like electronic music. And it was like that kind of turning point before like being like way too young still to go to the clubs, but looking through NME listings at like Club NME, which we wished we could go to, and you had to be 18 and I never got to go. So it was kind of like this yearning for being a bit older and being able to do like the cool Skins type stuff, but also not being able to, so just listening to music instead.
Yeah.
And pretending.
Yeah. I love that when like, you know, the fact that it sort of introduced you a little further into electronic music is amazing, because actually that sounds like quite a formative album, or at least moment of like listening to that for
sure.
You, which is very special. But yeah, to sort of think that you're listening to that and imagining, you know, clubbing in the future, whatever it may be, like, it's funny to sort of think about how it just sort of like enabled you to look into the future a little bit and figure out who future Tash LC was going to be. Like,
I guess so, And like it's funny because I guess that like 18-year-olds then would have been going to things like Club Yeke and like going to like indie raves. Like by the time I then was old enough, that was kind of even like when I went to Reading for the first time, because I wasn't allowed to go to festivals till I was a bit older, so I was like 18 and my friends were like 16-ish, just turned 16, so they were a bit younger. And then I remember feeling that gap between us, and then I went to see Vampire Weekend there, which is why I wanted to go, and that was great. But I was already going to like gigs, but I'd go with like my sister and my mum, or like sometimes with friends if I was allowed to, like in the week, but not to club nights yet. So like I feel like by the time that kind of indie club era had happened, it was done. But when I was old enough, so I never actually got to be in that. And it was funny sort of seeing it through the window of like pop culture and TV and stuff instead.
Was 2010 you quite excited or in a rush to grow up?
A little bit, I think, I suppose so, because as I said, like I really like admired and like the girls in like year 11 who would sort of probably go to those clubs but just had like fake IDs and stuff like that, and I thought that they were really cool. And my sister was like going out, so I suppose I did want to. And then I guess when you then get to that age when you start, I think it was like year 10 or 11ish, we then started like drinking a bit and stuff, and then you're sort of starting to feel like, oh, I'm oldish, but obviously you're not, you're still like so immature. But I think I was yearning for that. I think I was kind of like yearning to have the clubbing experience, for sure.
Nice. Okay, what is your third item that you've brought in for us?
I'm going to go with... I bought my whole CD case, by the way.
Oh, I love this.
This is my like...
This could be a single item.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, let's do that then. This is like, I can't even close it, it's so full. This is like, it says keep out on Sharpie.
What's that say?
Keep out.
Threatening little message.
Yeah, it's so dirty. This is my CD case that I used to bring with me on the bus every day. It's so heavy on my school bag. On the bus, like all day, every day to school, to and from school, and I'd like have my Walkman and I'd be like putting on CDs.
Cute.
And then I'd like be going through all my CDs with my friends and be like, oh, this is so sick, and counting all my, because prior to getting into indie music, I was obsessed with McFly. Like I've got like every single McFly album in here as well.
Nice.
And so like that was what I felt like when I first started school, secondary school, I'd be showing off all McFly albums, and then it gradually like started getting a bit cooler, and then now it's just got like Foles, there's those Avril Lavigne, lol. Loads of McFly, Hurts, that's another like sort of... Remember Hurts?
I do, it's a duo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, two guys.
Yeah, and then that was kind of like
moment.
electro indie-ish 2010, 11 vibes.
Yes. I remember seeing them at The Great Escape, actually, when I was at uni. Which I must be a little bit older than you then.
Yeah.
But, and that was a wicked gig.
Great Escape I wanted to go to, and what was the other one that was like T4, not on the beach? Was T4 on the beach?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wanted to go. I always watched that on TV in Glasgow. I'd watch like every year and be like, I wish I could go there. And be like, one day.
Yeah, and one day has happened.
And one day it's happened.
So what else we got now?
We've got a little Norton 360.
Didn't we all protect that PC at all costs?
We got the vaccine.
Do you know, my mum still uses those Norton 360 CDs.
Does she?
Bless her soul, yeah. I'm sure they're not a thing anymore, but she's like, I don't know. She's like, I must put it in. I don't want any bugs. Do
you want me to show it like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, go on then. We can see it in the camera.
Lots of McFly, every single McFly record.
I wish I knew 2010 you, because we'd have so much fun listening to music with this lot.
Drums, No Run the Whale. Remember No Run the Whale?
No Run the Whale, I do. And I collabed with Laura Marling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More McFly.
Some great stuff in
Pussycat
here.
Dolls Beat.
Oh, strong.
What else is there? Kanye West Graduation.
Nice. Did you ever have that struggle of like with the CD players? Like they'd always bump, right? And you would have to like hold them flat.
Yeah, always.
Yeah,
and then when you're on the rickety bus,
holding like a tray, and it's like I'm walking along like a waiter, just trying not to let it skip.
So inconvenient.
Yeah. It's
and then
mad
you'd be like on
happened.
like the bumpy bus to school, and then holding it like this, and it'd be like skipping. It's so chaotic.
Like, don't scratch. Mad. So I love this because obviously you have such a broad taste in music. And before I saw you put that thing on Instagram to be like, if I threw an indie night, would anyone come? I was like, oh, sick. Like, you've had a really varied musical journey to get to where you have as well. And I like to think I've had the same journey. Like, I was very much like into pop as a kid, and then I was an indie kid, and then I was an emo kid, and then I discovered jazz in my early 20s, and jazz then opened the door for me to club culture. So I did it in a really weird order.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's really nice to know that there's like other members of the underground music community championing these like really obscure independent sounds that came from a diet of McFly and Hertz in the world.
No logic to it whatsoever. But
that's great. We find our way. Well, Tash LC, thank you for being here, for being part of my year in sound. I've really enjoyed the chat. And,
I'm glad.
Thank you for bringing in all your bits to share with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. That was really nice.
Yay.